And you were listening to the Afternoon Drive here on WJTL and WJTL.com, your home for Christ, community, and music. And how about this? The Hits, Hymns, and Worship Tour coming our way, your way too, this Wednesday night, right next door at Landis Hall here at the Junction Center. Details available at the Junction Center tab at WJTL.com. They're celebrating 25 years of music and ministry. They are Phillips, Craig, and Dean. Three pastors, Randy Phillips, also Sean Craig, and Dan Dean. And Dan joining us here today via phone, I believe, in the Dallas area. Dan, welcome to WJTL.
I thank you very much, but I'm still trying to get my hands wrapped around. You just said 4 or 5 inches of snow.
Yes, and that could come our way tomorrow night. In fact, right now, though, we've got like delightful conditions, low humidity, about 43. But yeah, in fact, you don't have any of that kind of weather where you're from, do you?
Do you know what that would do to our city? It would shut the entire city down for days. The stores would be empty. There would be like a rush on water and bread, and we don't have the machines here to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
you got to plan ahead here in the East Coast, and you got to get ready for those type of things. And well, as a touring artist, we're talking to Dan Dean here from Phillips, Craig, and Dean. You probably have. Can you think back over the years, last 20 plus years, any like major stories where your group, you got stranded and you had to be diverted and things got changed up for you? Give us a story.
Yes, there's quite a few stories like that actually. One that I clearly remember is being stuck in the Denver airport all day long, and when I finally got out, they couldn't go to Dallas where I was trying to get, and went to Austin. I got there and was going to rent a car and drive from Austin to Dallas, and realized that I didn't have a driver's license. Something had happened, and I was stranded in Austin.
Oh my!
You know what? Those are few and far between for the good 26 years that we've had on the road. It's really been a great run, and we're excited to be coming to Manheim.
We're excited to have you here, too. This coming Wednesday night, Phillips, Craig, and Dean. This Wednesday, March 7th at 7, the Hits, Hymns, and Worship Tour celebrating 25 years of music and ministry together. And they'll be, I believe, selling another CD. It's called it's a hymn CD. I want to get into this idea of recording hymns and sacred songs and praise and worship music, which your group has become known for. But I got to hear the story here because I guess it was years ago, and I guess it's vision, it's timing, it's prayer. So the story goes, I guess Randy Phillips actually went to a record label in Tennessee, and he had like a solo project in hand, and they in turn said, well, why don't you get yourself a group together and come back? And that's kind of like the story in a nutshell. So then I guess he called Sean, he called you too. Can you take us back and give us a sense of how that kind of set everything in motion?
I'll tell you exactly how that transpired. Randy called me, and we had actually worked on a project together on something he had done. In fact, his solo project, I did a duet with him. So it was, we already had a good working relationship, and we tossed around who do we want to be part of this. And at the time, we didn't know Sean that well, but he was really writing some great songs. So we settled on Sean. We flew Sean to Dallas. Randy drove up from Austin to Dallas, and we learned 3 songs, one that each of us had written. Went to the studio the next morning and threw down some rough demos of those 3. Two of those 3 were on our first album, and little did we know, Randy sent them to everybody he could think of. And the next thing you know, we're getting a call from a couple of record companies in Nashville saying, "Can you come do a concert for us?" Well, there was a problem. We only knew 3 songs, so they came back to Dallas, and we learned another 10 songs, and you realize how in reverse this is.
Oh, yeah.
What generally happens most of the time, a group burns the road up and kicks up dust, and finally they get to sign a record deal. We didn't even hardly know each other, and the third time we sang, we had a record deal. So it's quite remarkable how it all happened.
It's a tremendous story about longevity and a tremendous story about ministry and faith and accountability, too. And we just heard the news about Third Day. They're having an amicable breakup on Friday. And I'm looking back, I'm thinking, well, this group, Phillips, Craig, and Dean's been together about that same time, and you've endured so much. And then also the fact that all three of you are pastors with your separate homes and your separate churches. Talk about the connection of maintaining that perspective on your church life and also your touring life.
Well, I think it helps us to be in different cities. It gives us time away from each other, and we're not doing, a lot of these groups are doing 250, 300 dates a year, and I think that you would start to wear on one another probably after a certain number of years. But the entire tenure of our career, we've been. When we're off the road, and we don't really see each other that much. So even in the early days when we were doing, 150 dates a year, there were spaces that we weren't together. And we had our families, and we had our church obligations and other jobs, and I think it's been a tremendous asset.
Phillips, Craig, and Dean are coming here Wednesday night. It's called the Hits, Hymns, and Worship event at Landis Hall, right next door here in Manheim at the Junction Center. Tickets on sale now at the Junction Center tab at WJTL.com. So many records that we can recommend by this group. We're going to play a track called Crucify with Christ here in just a couple of seconds. Give me a sense, though, that because it's interesting, I look back at the career of your group and some of your contemporaries, and this is a good thing, For Him, Avalon, people like that, New Song, vocal groups that we think of that made such a big impact on Christian music and Christian ministry. But yet, I thought what was unique about your group was, and maybe it was a conscious decision, but the fact that you began doing praise and worship-centric music really kind of put this group on a different level nationally as far as recognition. And the songs you chose to do over the years have really made an impact. And I want to read you a comment here from Facebook here. This says here, "Thank you for giving me what I've needed from music for a long time now. Pure joy." And the words pure joy, that was a lady on your Facebook page. I thought that kind of encapsulates how people respond to your music. Talk about that direction of embracing praise and worship music. And was it through prayer? Was it discernment? What was the story there?
Well, I think that the honest answer to that is when we got the record deal, we kind of did what they asked us to do because we didn't have a lot of experience. And at the time, I would say our sound was kind of a Christian country pop sound. The harmony was kind of country, but musically it was more pop. But the truth of the matter is that all three of us were worship pastors, worship leaders in our home churches. That's where we cut our teeth. And so as we moved along in our career, we started asking the record company, we want to do a praise and worship album. And they would say, no, it's working. Let's not mess with what's working. And so by the time we got, 6 or 7 albums in, we did an album called Restoration, and it was our worst selling album, although there were some really good songs, including one called When God Ran that I love, an old Benny Hester cover.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter was we were yearning to do something different. So we approached them the very last time and we said, hey, this is our last album with you. This is when we were with Sparrow, actually, and we asked Bill Hearn, let us do a praise and worship album. And so he said, okay, let's do it. And Nathan Knuckles produced Let My Words Be Few. And it gave not just, I think, a new and fresh approach to our whole lives, but it was a new sound for us. It was just a breath of fresh air, and it really added years, I think, to our career because we were tiring of the whole, pop thing. And thankfully that happened because it gave new life to us, gave wings to our career, and here we are all these years later and still love what we're doing and still have people come out and hear us, which is quite amazing.
Well, it's amazing.
Now, they're older. For some reason, they're older. I can't quite figure that out.
See, I'll let that go. 25 years of music and ministry. Phillips, Craig, and Dean this coming Wednesday night. The show starts at 7. Hits, hymns, and worship. So many records to recommend by Phillips, Craig, and Dean over the years, sir. Let Your Glory Fall and The Ultimate Collection, Breathe In, Fearless, Above It All, and so many more. Before I let you go, I want to talk about the chemistry, because anytime there's voices singing, it's either in harmony or not harmony. And I know you're not related, but there is something that is it's almost intrinsic in the way you sing together. Talk about just the harmonization that all three of you bring together. What is it? Is it something that you get, it develops, or did you know right away that your three voices in harmony was something special? How's that work?
Well, I think, I told you we did the 3 songs on the demo that first time we met, and I remember going home, sitting out in the van, and listening to those 3 songs. I got my wife out to the van and said, listen to this. And one of the songs was Midnight Oil, which was on our first album. And the other song was Favorite Song of All, which was also on our first album. And I remember us looking at each other and saying, there's something really special about the harmony of our voices together. And, at that point, we had not even had time to really develop and learn, the nuances of each other's voices, but we'd grown up singing harmony, and it was so natural. And it just kind of fell into place that John was the high voice, I was the middle voice, and Randy was the low voice. And since that very first project, the harmony has been really special. I think that's what's made this group special, the harmony and the songs.
Well, I couldn't agree.
Just along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's why I wanted to talk about just the voices and how you all three sound together, blend so well together, and complement each other so well together. Don't miss Phillips, Craig, and Dean this coming Wednesday night, March 7th, right next door here in Mannheim at the Junction Center Landis Hall, the Hits, Hymns, and Worship Tour. It starts right around 7. Details and tickets at the Junction Center tab at WJTL.com. I want to play Crucify with Christ. Go ahead.
Will come out because it's going to be a great night of fun and worship. We do have fun, but we do have some really great moments of worship, and I think people will really be blessed by coming out, and hope we can see you there.
Well, absolutely. And again, the brand new hymns project that's being worked on, that's going to be available this coming Wednesday night. My thanks to the group Phillips, Craig, and Dean. And again, Dan, thank you so much for your time. Let's play that song right now called Crucified with Christ from Phillips, Craig, and Dean. This is WJTL.